Hello and welcome to the Singularity Lab, your one-stop shop for reliable news, commentary, and breaking stories on science, technology, and UAP discoveries. It's amazing to have you all today. Luis and Kristen, how the heck are you?
Not too shabby. Did she say here?
You did. You did.
I've been up back and forth from 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to get my kid to school. Then my other kid going to pick my kid back up from school because we're getting COVID interaction notifications. It's been
a mess, dude. It's been a mess here in Florida.
Florida's fun.
We had
comment. Shit, Luis is here. When is Luis?
That's UFO Blueprint. He's always busting your balls.
Oh yeah, I forgot. It's UFO Blueprint.
Did you forget?
That's hilarious. Yeah, I guess I did.
I guess I did. Simon Fly, Tina Tamazuski, UFO Blueprint, Justin Swink McCloud, I should say, Rusty Pack, Mystery Ghost, Simon Fly. It's amazing to have you all today. I've got something interesting. We've got an amazing guest for you. Before we get to our guest, I just wanted to talk about how hard futurism is, because I think it's something that you hear people try to get a handle on, and so often they're just wrong. And part of the reason that I think that is because we all have a lot of cognitive bias, and we all suffer from logical fallacies. And have you guys ever heard of first principles, Kristen or Luis? Have you guys ever heard of the idea of first principles?
If you say more, maybe.
That's all you get.
Okay, no.
No, I can't say I have. Just first principles, not like first
so
principles of relativity, first principles of gravity.
Well, yeah, you can use them for all sorts of things. So you can use them in math, you can use them in physics, but basically the idea is it's the fundamental concept of something. What you cannot break it down into any smaller parts. So for example, in math, a first principle would be anything times 0 is 0. It's just a basic truth in math. Physics, the law of conservation of energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. So first principle is just an idea that everything else rests on, right? So one of the things that I wanted to do today, I've got a cool little card pack here, and it's got 24 cards in it that represent cognitive bias, and 24 cards that represent logical fallacies. So I thought it would be a fun little experiment to pick one at random and have you guys and our Chatterverse tell us an example of one of these either logical fallacies or cognitive bias. What do you say?
Okay.
Yeah, you ready?
Give it a shot.
You ready?
Yeah. All right. I'm usually bad at stuff like this, but let's go for it.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, if you are bad at this, UFO Blueprint will be happy to call you out. So
I can't wait. It'll be entertaining at the very least.
There's really no sweat. Rather be sweating, says Mick West's guest deck.
Whoa, tongue twister.
Whoa, easy, buddy.
I can't do it. All right. So our first logical fallacy is personal incredulity.
Incredulity?
Incredulity?
You know what? Why don't you give the card to Kristen? Why don't you? Give the card to Kristen, Michael.
There we go. Is it backward?
It's probably
incredulity.
Incredulity. All right. So saying that because one finds something difficult to understand, that it's therefore not true. Because it's difficult to understand, it's not true. So, you guys think of something in life where you've heard this before, or seen this before?
Oh, so where I've seen this as someone else has explained this to me, since they don't understand it, it's not true.
Yeah, or like you see it on social media, or you see it in the news, or you see it in popular culture.
I feel like we've gone so much more complex than that.
John says, Mike, you're married, give her the card, says Jazz Shaw. John Russell says the paranormal, because you don't understand it, you believe it's not true. Okay. Rather says Anne Julie's story.
What's Angeli's story?
I think he's talking about Angela.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Ooh, Mystery Goat says pick or it didn't happen. Okay, so maybe I think this actually lands. This lands pretty hard on the UAP topic, I would say, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's a lot of folks are like they don't understand it, so it's automatically aliens, right?
That's a good point too. That's a good point too. Making assumptions. So saying that because one finds something difficult to understand, that is therefore not true.
Okay, so like gravity.
Right.
We still don't understand gravity, but it's definitely true.
Right. What about the flat Earth? What would that be? Or explaining to somebody that the globe is round is difficult for a flat earther to understand.
See, I feel more like we just have people coming up with ideas of why they believe one thing is true versus another thing is true. Like most of the time, people aren't going to admit that they don't believe it because they don't understand it.
Right. That's a great point. They're just like, oh, I have a different theory.
Right. Here's my new idea.
I mean, COVID's difficult to understand. Clearly.
That's a good point. Vaccination technology is difficult to understand. mRNA.
Yeah, all of those things are very difficult to understand.
Personal incredulity. What is it? Is it incredulity?
You should seriously give her the cards.
You put on steak. Say it, Michael.
Worcestershire.
Yeah.
I was drinking when you said that. I almost spit on my microphone.
Worcestershire. What
is Worcestershire?
Intelligent man. There are very few things I get to tease him about.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce this? How do you pronounce this word?
Worcestershire. It's blurry.
That word.
Incredulity. I don't know. What do we got? What does Kristen say?
What do you say?
I thought it was incredulity because that's always how I've thought I've heard it pronounced, but you're saying it's a different word.
It's not duality. It's just duality. D-U-L-I-T-Y.
I'm sure somebody knows.
Toby says I'm correct. Incredulity.
Well, Simon says I got it.
Who has it?
I think you're right. I think you're right, Mike. If I had to take a guess, incredulity. All right. Incredulity. I can't. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is. And I think, but the reason I bring this up is because I think it's so important because I do this all the time. Like I get in these cognitive biases or I have these logical fallacies and I don't catch myself until later when I go back and I was like, oh, yeah, I definitely had a bias there. And so I think it's always important to like check yourself on these sorts of things. So I think it's fun. So we're gonna keep doing this here on the Singularity Lab. Hopefully I can pronounce future logical fallacies
or you could just give the cards to your wife. Wow. Just let her read it.
That's actually a phenomenal idea.
But now I'm thinking I would have stared at it for a long time, being like, Incredulity.
I got it.
I don't know why that D makes the J sound, but it is what it is.
It is, yeah.
It is
English.
All right. English. Without further ado, we've got an amazing guest for you guys today. He is the head science writer at Debrief Media. He's also a stand-up comedian, if you guys didn't know, and a fiction writer. The dude is a Renaissance man. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Christopher Plain.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am incredulous. And yes, I got a whole bucket full of Worcestershire. Oh my God. Hey, while we're doing pronunciation, can I fix something that bugs the hell out of your show?
Go right ahead.
Tina Tomaszewski. For my fellow Polacks out there, it's Tina Tomaszewski.
Okay.
Just make that W-S-E, and it all comes right together for you. Tina, if I'm right, please clarify.
Well, the only reason why I say Tomaszewski is because I met Tina on another show, and that's how the host of that show pronounces it.
Yeah, and it could be an Americanized pronunciation that the family adopted. Don't get me wrong, but for Polish people, we would pronounce that Tomaszewski.
Tomaszewski.
Yes.
Tomaszewski.
Incredulity.
She said, "Thank you very much, Chris Plain."
Tomaszewski. Okay.
Tina Tomaszewski. We got it.
Tomaszewski.
The entire Machniak family is looking out for you. Everybody in Buffalo is on board with you, Tina.
Well, we appreciate the clarification, Chris. And
how's the COVID going? How's everyone doing?
Did you hear earlier? So our daughter got sent home today because somebody in her class tested positive. So they sent them home. I tested positive last week, so I'm better now. It's been a mess, man. Here in Florida,
check out what I learned from the other moms and the school nurse about Florida today. So, if a kid is in contact with another kid at the school, because they can't control anything outside of the school, like we were trying to responsibly isolate our child earlier in the week, but they don't care about that. So, if they come in contact with someone in the school who tests positive, when they finally figure it out, they send home a letter to mom and dad, and you've got to isolate for 10, or what are they calling it? Or quarantine or isolate, I'm not sure, for 10 days. They can't go back to school. Unless you take them to a private pediatrician and get the pediatrician to contact the health department and get them to fast forward your child's release back to school, which if you can't afford to take them to a private pediatrician, your kid's going to be missing 10 days and the wealthier kids are going to get to go back to school sooner, which fucking sucks.
Yeah, this is why everyone hates white people.
You said it, Chris, but I didn't say that.
Chris,
he's the one guy here with the Tomaszewski.
Yeah, look at Ruiz. He's nodding. He agrees with me. Right, Ruiz? You agree?
I mean, yes. Yes. I totally agree. I mean, this is privilege. It's an issue. It's an issue in the country. But I mean, that is pretty slick.
Lots of white people are poor, you guys.
No, that's true.
Poor white people.
That's propaganda. I'm incredulous at that concept.
All right, Chris.
All right, what do we want to talk about? Let's talk about UFOs.
I want to talk about
science or something.
I want to talk about your new art. I mean, the writing you're doing at the Debrief is just absolutely prolific. Do they have you like? Are they whipping you? Like, how are you putting out so many articles over there?
So just cocaine, same old formula. So
no one's going to club that.
Know. Look at Ruiz. He's ready for the cocaine. So I'm going to just keep pronouncing his name till he addresses it. So it's been summer, man. It's been summer slump. All of these guys I work with, all the writers I work with, all the people at the Debrief, they've all got wives and kids and families. And I just got a wife who would really rather I went in the other room and wrote. So it's worked out really well for everybody. So yeah, I put out 8 articles in the last 11 days. So it's been a hot streak.
Wow.
No doubt about it. No doubt.
What's the favorite one you've written yet so far?
Oh, okay. Well, so there have been 3 that have got a little bit of attention. So, I'm a whore. I like attention. So the UAP, the 2-parter, got me a lot of positive feedback, including the former head of the UAPTF sent a private message to the Debrief telling me that it got attention. I don't know what that means, but
wow.
Then I had the light antimatter story. I love that. That was one of the most interesting things I've ever stumbled across. And then the Star Trek piece I just put out this week had a lot of coverage on other websites, made it on Real Clear Science and a couple other places. So yeah, that was it's been a fun week and a half of stories, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So let's dig into. So you had the 2-parter that came out on August 19th and the 20th, and that one was the world's largest association of aerospace and aeronautical engineers joins call for scientific inquiry of UFOs. Can you kind of walk us through what that,
Absolutely.
what the call was and like exactly how that went down?
So the AIAA, as you pointed out, world's largest association of science people that deal with aeronautics and aviation. So these are all engineers and theoretical physicists, all types of people that really work in that field. And what they did was they have an annual conference and they had a safety presentation. And I'm telling you, Kristen, Mike, and Hubert, they had like maybe 100 sessions over a 2-week span covering a number of significant topics that had to do with safety, aviation, things like that. And one of them was this session, UAPs and aviation safety. It's a real problem. It's a real issue. And I got invited to come sit in. There was over 100 live engineers sitting in and listening to the talk. And there was a panel of 6 just breaking down what they're dealing with. And a lot of us in this community would know Ryan Graves was there, Pilot Ryan Graves.
Yeah.
And he was by far the most compelling speaker, in a room full of scientists, in a room full of engineers talking about science issues. He was the guy who you still sit there and listen to him talk, and you look at his face when he's talking and you go, this is a real thing. This is something he and the pilots are dealing with. This guy's totally legit.
So
Right. Okay. So
where is this coming from? Why now? Like, why all of a sudden are they interested? Or is this, or am I wrong? And maybe they've actually had this discussion in the past.
Yeah, I've got no impression from anyone that this is something they did before. I can tell you that the host of the session, Ed Stanton, he's a chair over there at the AIAA, chair of the, I forget which committee. I mentioned it there in the article. But he said right at the beginning, he said, they presented this to me, meaning this, a couple of these scientists and aviation people that wanted to put on the panel. And he said, as soon as I heard all the incidents and what they were talking about, it was an absolute no-brainer. And again, this is, they were even right on the cover of the session, it says, there will be no talk of the origins or weird theories or anything. They weren't trying to say it's not aliens. They were just trying to say, let's talk about what we're dealing with.
Right.
Which is a regular increasing situation of commercial and military pilots having near misses. Ryan Graves said it. I put it right in the article. He said, I'm surprised we haven't had a midair collision already. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. That's how common the problem is.
Wow. And so the AIAA is the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics.
Yeah.
30,000 aerospace industry specialists.
Yep.
So, okay, this is wild. So tell us a little bit about, did they talk about specific types of craft they're seeing? Obviously, we're not speculating as to where these crafts are coming from, but are they talking about specifics in regard to the craft that they're experiencing?
So here's, yes, no doubt about it. And I can tell you this too. I don't want to put any words in anyone's mouth because they were all professionals there.
Yeah.
But a lot of the talk tended towards the same way we hear Elizondo talking now.
Okay.
Which is this kind of like, we know it's not foreign military. We're pretty sure it's not us. Doing their best to leave nebulous the origins. But, reading between the lines, the 3 PhD scientists, the 2 master's engineers, and Ryan Graves, the 6 people I saw speak, we're all talking about it like it's a phenomenon external to us that is creating a threat.
So they didn't even bring up drones or any sort of, unmanned aerial vehicles.
So all of that was left open, Mike. I'm sorry to cut you off. All of that was left open. I don't think any, they really did go out of their way. I mentioned this in the article. I thought what was funny, there was one point in the middle of the seminar where, panelists, people that were attending like myself, could answer questions, ask questions.
Right.
And they had a guy come on the camera, and I described him as a seasoned veteran. And I would say that his mindset may not be as modern as the people that were approaching this. And at one point in the conversation, he said, look, we know this is real. We know this is an issue. He was trying to give everyone the points they were making. He says, the only thing we know for sure is that they're not little green men traveling in faster than light spacecrafts from another galaxy.
Right.
And
how did they know that for sure?
The room was silent. There was a lot of frowning by the panelists who were like, you're doing exactly what we didn't want to do here.
Right.
We exactly didn't want to get into that discussion. Did I get the impression from all the speakers that they were kind of going, there's a good chance it's something not us? Yes, I got that impression. But whenever there was an attempt by somebody to shoot it down, that's the only one I specifically remember. It was a 5-hour session. Was this one guy just kind of going, well, the one thing we know for sure. And I thought, wow, that's the only thing we don't know for sure is the origin, right? We know we're coming across them. We know people are almost running into them. We know we're flying in crazy ways. We know it's happening all the time. We know lots of stuff. The only thing we don't know is the origin. And it rang of a really old mindset. And all the people in the room there were no children there. You know, Ryan Graves was probably the youngest guy in the room. They were all adults. And everyone was like, that's not the mindset we're approaching this with at all.
Wow. Yeah. Dr. Ravi Kaparapu from NASA was there.
Dr. Kaparapu was there. Yeah.
Kevin Knuth from
Knuth,
from State University of New York. Peter Raioli, electrical engineer, board director for Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. Ted Rowe. You had people from NARCAP there.
Yep.
You had people from the European Space Agency. So these are legit scientists and engineers who are concerned about what's going on with our pilots and that this could be potentially extremely dangerous.
Yep. And I can tell you that a lot of the talk and a lot of the discussion was around that issue. But within and around that, these scientists offered a lot of theories. They talked about theoretical propulsion ideas. They talked about concepts of how these things might be flying. A little part of my second article, kind of breaking down the top 5 takeaways, went into their call for data and the need for data. But they did try and take the little bit they had. There was a really amazing presentation. I don't remember which one it was, but it was one of the scientists. He was from the I forget what it was called. But anyway, they're this group of scientists who are looking at UAPs and the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, I think it's called. Yeah, the SCU. And they had a whole mathematical analysis of if you had a tic-tac, roughly the size described by the pilots, and nobody there was questioning testimony by the pilots or descriptions of these things. If you had a tic-tac at 20,000, 30,000 feet, whatever Day was picking them up at. I think it was Day who was picking them up on the radar. And it dropped to 50 feet in 0.78 seconds. The physical amount of energy needed to accelerate the craft that fast from that level to that level. And then the amount of energy it would have to release to stop. Because, when you hit the brakes on your car, that energy is being absorbed into your brake pads. That's why they wear out. So that energy's got to go somewhere. And I said it in the article. I said the most interesting part of the entire day was the part I really couldn't understand, was a group of scientists discussing complex mathematics about UAP maneuvers and ideas of physics that were beyond me. And I thought, this is what's supposed to be happening. We're supposed to have pilots who are seeing it, experts like the guy from NARCAP with the historical knowledge, and a group of scientists and engineers getting together, trying to understand what they're looking at.
Right.
It was really refreshing and a really exciting seminar.
That's fantastic.
Okay, I've got a question real quick, though. There's a $1.99 super sticker from Makashi Chris. Thank you. Excuse me. So yesterday we talked to Zach Leitchie, and he's right. Like, this is annoying. This ambiguity of how they explain these things. They're there. They're a threat, but we're not going to talk about anything else. Like, why is nobody asking these guys, why can't we get a definitive answer on this? Like, is it there or is it not? And if it is, why can't we talk about it past just that? Like, there's so much, especially in this overload information age where there's pseudoscience, there's YouTube, there's all sorts of crazy outlets for people to get what they call news out there. And because they won't be clear about what the hell's going on, it's creating a whole bunch of conspiracy theories and dangerous thinking. And it's like, it's starting to piss me off now. Like, I'm starting to get upset like Zach is, because it's like you could add so much clarity on the information that's already out there with the Tic-Tac footage, with the Go Fast, and with the gimbal. You can add more information to that's already out there. So let's let's get a definition of what this thing is, and let's get an understanding so that way we can kill false flag narratives. Like, it's ridiculous, dude. Like, why is anybody asking those questions to these guys?
So those are the type of questions I would ask somebody in the know. So those are questions I would ask Harry Reid or Lou Elizondo or somebody who's maybe sitting on a pile of information or seen videos we haven't seen. I can tell you what was interesting at this group was they were using things that we all knew way too well. You know, this is a group of aviation people, and the one guy's showing Aguadilla video, and the other guy's showing Go Fast video, and the other guy's showing the FLIR video. And they're discussing them with aviation engineers as if this is all new information. So I can tell you that Dr. Knuth had some really interesting science and theories on plasma sheets, and he used part of the Aguadilla video where it goes over certain areas and you could see some disturbance in the video, and he had some other photos. One was gimbal, one was a controversial photo that was covered a little bit in my story that may not be real. But there was an attempt by these engineers to look at this circumstance, look at this little tiny bit of data they had, and try and give the best answer they could. But yeah, these are, for better or worse, this group of people I was in the room with are not in the know. These are scientists looking at it saying, we're trying to figure it out.
Right.
We've got Kenneth Knuth coming for the second day of the Big Phone Home.
Oh,
I mean, if there was a question that we should be asking him or pressing
also Peter
him on,
Reale too. Both of those guys are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you a great
what would it
question
be?
for Kevin that he hinted at was that his group, UAPX, has some video they're putting together. And he did let slip at one point in the conference, I think kind of under his breath, that they're seeing UAPs every 20 hours on average.
What?
Meaning things that they're... Now, I'm just telling you what came out at this conference. You can ask him about it, and maybe I misheard him. And it was, like I said, it was a 5-hour day. But I know it spun my head around when he said it. And I think I even asked him, I think if I go back to the transcript of the seminar, because I asked questions of every speaker, I think he did indicate that they have a report coming soon, and that's why he was being a little oblique with the information. But yeah, that was something that really jumped out at me. And yeah, he's got some really interesting theories on propulsion, UAP physics. He's doing a seminar this weekend. I'll send you guys the link privately because it's a private invite seminar, but he's doing one on Saturday about UAP physics and how they might be moving and flying.
GD with a $5 super chat says, maybe no mid-air collisions because it's all atmospheric plasma as per the Condon report. You said you heard a little bit about
plasma show up on radar?
Right.
Plasma show up on radar? Does plasma show up on sensors that the military doesn't even want us to know they have? They're so advanced. I don't think so. I think we're past those sort of answers. I think physical objects are physical objects. I think we're well past that.
Can I ask you this? This is another thing we sort of talked about last night about how all of these conferences and programs and things all seem to lead back for at least 2 decades to Bob Bigelow. So does this conference in any way lead back to somebody like a Bob Bigelow where this is like...
You know what? Actually, I think that was one of the neat things. I think that's something that's happened recently, Luis, and I think people doing what you guys do is a big part of that. So I think there's no doubt in my mind. Is just a new wave of people looking at it seriously and feeling emboldened to not have a stigma if they do it. So that's what I picked up here. No, Bob, hey, I even tell people back in 1995, I was scoping cruising the NIDS website looking for answers, and sure that Piccolo was going to find it any day. I mean, really, like I would be reading ghost stories, hoping there was a UFO in there, answers in there somewhere. But
what do you make of this? Did you hear anything about the conference when they were going over Aguadilla? Do you think at the end of Aguadilla, when it splits in two, if it is truly a split or gravitational lensing or other distortion, did they mention anything like this?
Yeah. So again, that was part of Dr. Knuth's presentation, and he went into exactly that. And for his takeaway, and again, this is not a video imaging specialist. This is a physics professor.
Right.
He thought it looked like it split into two things. He felt that they were two physically distinct objects that it came to when looking at the video. But
this is kind of the problem here, isn't it? That we have, these physicists and scientists looking at these things, and they're not with somebody who has, experience with videography and understanding how things translate from video to reality. I mean, this seems like a big disconnect here, no?
Mike, I think when the interesting part, one other interesting part of this seminar is at the end of the entire thing, the group had Ryan Graves present a list of recommendations to the AIAA and what the association could do. And it was surprising how similar those recommendations were to the UAPTF in the sense that they said exactly that. They said we need to get more information. We need to get better information. That was the biggest call. But there was also a serious discussion at this seminar. In my article, I called it "To UFO or Not to UFO." And there was a big discussion between the scientists of, is there value in going to these UFO historians, people who have been following the subject for 75 years, or at least the history of the 75 plus years of the modern aspect of the phenomenon, and having them come in, if for no other reason to say, yeah, that video's crap, it's already been disproved, or that picture is not good, or you guys, you're looking at the one guy brought up the EM distortions and glowing balls of light. Well, physicists might be looking at that, checking every UAP for glowing balls or for EM, and Ted Rowe from NARCAP said, no, we've been looking at these cases since 1916, and we have 57 of them with EM interference, and they're all glowing balls of light. So that's a value that someone like him could have and add to a scientific discussion. So in that list of recommendations, that's what they came across with. The same set of things. We need better data. Here's the tools. And yeah, exactly what you said, Mike. We need a panel of experts across a range of fields. Video imaging, still photography, night vision, the stuff we're doing at UAPX, the stuff that UAP at Home's going to do. These sort of like independent efforts to look at data, gather data, and analyze data.
I love it. Chris, you're the man. I really appreciate you covering this story. And real quick, I want to do a room reset and thank everybody for joining us today. We've got an amazing show for you. We're here joined with Chris Plain. He is the head science writer at The Debrief. He's been absolutely prolific over the last few weeks, just writing an incredible amount of articles and doing such great work in investigative journalism. And we really appreciate you stopping by here and spending that time with us, Chris. If you haven't liked, subscribed, or shared this video, make sure you do so now. We are ramping up for the Big Phone Home 2, which will be on Labor Day weekend, the 4th, 5th, and 6th. We've got 3 amazing days. We're going to be live streaming for 8 hours each day, bringing you science, technology, military, investigative journalists who are all covering this UAP story with the goal of getting congressional hearings and crushing this false flag narrative. We want to get to the truth. We want the facts, and we want to get away from pure speculation. And I think that's what the Big Phone Home's all about. And we hope you'll join us for that. Chris, okay, so let's keep digging in here, because you also wrote, let's hit the super chat first.
Answer Jean-Francois' question?
Jean-Francois, Kristen, who's that?
Francois Charlebois.
Jean-Francois Charlebois, of course.
Yes, but he doesn't. He only super chats to hear Kristen say his name.
That's true.
He only does what?
He only donates to hear Kristen say his name.
Oh, that's what you think.
Oh, that's my theory.
Yes.
Are you saying I'm speculating?
I only appear on the show to get Kristen to talk to me. So.
Was it incredulity? Was that it? Was that? Yes. Did I have incredulity?
I think this is exactly where we're moving, Jean-Francois. I think this is exactly where we're moving. I think we don't have a community college visiting professors working on their PhDs talking about it. We have tenured professors at Harvard talking about it. We have tenured professors at major universities looking into this. The Galileo project, the work that Avi's doing, the people he's talking to, the people that are volunteering to come on board, a lot of that's happening behind the scenes, and a lot of that isn't being announced yet. So we're hearing dribbles over at the debrief, but I can tell you, this is the visible college is where we're going. And I can tell you guys my own theory, but I don't want to ruin the big surprise at the end of the year, because I am going to be writing an essay that'll be in a compendium we're putting out at the debrief at the end of the year.
Perhaps you could just share a hook or two.
Yeah, I think we're entering a point in time in history where science and UAPs may finally meet in the middle. There may be... Let me ask you this question. Here's what I want to ask you. Huey, I'm going to ask you, because you're quiet over there. If we find... James Webb goes up at the end of the year, right?
Right.
It's going to be pointed at some exoplanets and studying their atmosphere for biosignatures and possibly technosignatures. I've studied those programs. Okay. I've written about them. Let me ask you this. Say we find a planet that's 5 light years away, and it's got technosignatures. It sure seems like, man, the right gases are there for life. And mainstream science says we found a planet with living things and enough EM radiation and other things that we think they're modern and technological of some sort. How long before we ask ourselves if that society has sent a probe here?
Right.
It's what we're going to do the minute we find it.
the second we
find it, we're sending a probe.
100%.
And this is stuff I'll be covering all throughout the fall. I'm talking to Sonny White, the former NASA engineer. I'm talking to a bunch of these advanced physics concepts people. We're going to have probes probably maybe in your guys' lifetime, maybe not mine, but in our lifetimes, we're going to have probes that can go about 20% the speed of light. Wouldn't you send a probe to a planet we find with techno or biosignatures?
100%.
It's going to take 20, 30, 40 years to get there. I mean, Voyager's been in space for over 40 years. You're telling me we wouldn't send a probe the minute we spotted that planet? I think that's where we're going to find out. I think we're going to meet in the middle. I think science is going to discover multiple planets with signs of life in the atmosphere. And if there's a last drop of disclosure to be done, I wouldn't be surprised if right on the heel of that announcement is, we've got a craft ship or we have photos or evidence or something. I wouldn't be surprised if those two things meet in the middle.
You're getting excited,
I gave up my whole effort. I even write it now.
Boy, so many questions.
I know. Real quick, let me get the super chat real quick. GD. Apparently, yes, it does see Hazelden lights. Condon, not Condine, not Condon report. They're talking about the Hesdalen. This person's talking about the potential plasmoids detected by the Hesdalen lights, which we discussed on Tia Durrani's episode. If you haven't watched the episode, we spoke with Professor Tia Durrani. Make sure you check that out here on the Singularity Lab. It's fascinating. Then we'll also have the person who is running and ran the Hesdalen Lights experiment. They're going to be joining us on Sunday here on the Singularity Lab for the Big Phone Home as well. So y'all don't want to miss that.
Is there a drinking game with the Big Phone Home? I mean, does anybody come? I mean, I'm going to be here for 3 days.
Anytime anyone misspells a word or observes a logical fallacy, you have to drink.
Misspells or mispronounces?
How about every time Luis says, how about every time Luis says, here's what I don't understand?
Do I say that a lot?
You do.
Top of the list is
one
that.
of your taglines.
All right. How about every time Rather Be Squidding looks like he just let out a fart and hopes no one heard it?
Oh my God, you'll be dead and passed out before the show's over.
Or anytime Rather Be Squidding wants to say something, but somebody cuts him off.
That happens all the time. Poor guy.
Poor guy. We're going to have him on. He's going to be joining the rest of the show. Don't go anywhere. We've got Rather Be Squidding coming up. We've got Jazz Shaw. It's going to be a great second hour.
Oh my God, Jazz and I are going to be on together?
Jazz and you guys are going to be on together. You guys, both from the Debrief Media. It's going to be a blast.
Right. Okay, so I got a question about what he said. And this is what I don't get. So do you think if we did get technosignatures from other planets through the telescope, the Webb telescope, do you think they'd be honest with us? Or do you think they'd sit on that and, like science does, sit on it and confirm it for 5 years and write a couple of papers that nobody gets to read and then determine, okay, we'll tell them now.
So, I think that's a fair question. I think if James Webb were a military telescope, we would never hear anything. Yes, I do think that's true. NASA is a big, sloppy, leaking sieve of smart nerds that want to tell everyone the minute they know something cool.
Just like you.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I'm like a NASA nerd with no education. That's basically what I am. Yeah.
But I mean, but it's built with government dollars, though, right?
Man, I got to tell you, my experience with the people, and that's probably one of the places I'm lucky enough to speak to people regularly at this job, is I've said this before on your show. When I got hired at the Debrief, I told them one thing: never give me a copy of the triangle photo, because the minute you give it to me, I will release that shit on the internet, because that is a societal obligation. That is, if you have that, I'm talking to you in the intelligence community right now. If you have that photo and you have chosen not to release it to humanity, you have done yourself and humanity a disservice. That's my feeling. So I told them, I don't even know if they have it. For all I know, Tim and Micah and MJ have it all over their bedroom, right? I don't know if they have copies of that photo. But
well, if they do, are they doing a disservice to humanity?
If they have that copy and they're not sharing it, at goddamn minimum, put it on the Debrief and get us some clicks, right?
Well, can't we also see more private entities getting involved in this sort of exploration in the future, who would put out the information for their own benefit, whether it be Tesla sharing it to raise his stock value or whatever?
There was a good article on Yahoo today I tweeted out about a new secret weapon that the Department of Defense is working on, and they've only released that it's a secret weapon, but that's all we know. But within that article, they talked about, the writer from Yahoo, I forget which one it was, talked about the fact that a number of commercial satellites are being put up in space that have the ability to image in and around themselves, that for various security and safety reasons and other things. And I wrote an article for UAP Research about a year ago talking about the idea that I think commercial space travel could be, and all these technological advancements are going to make disclosure moot, because I think people are just going to see it for themselves. I mean, I said it in the article. You're telling me Matthew McConaughey gets on a Virgin X rocket, gets up into the atmosphere and sees a flying saucer flying around, that he's going to honor a non-disclosure to not talk about it? All right. He's going to tell you about it, bro. And I think that's how my experience with NASA scientists, Luis, to answer your question, is that's how they are. They get this information, it's coming out, man.
It's going to leak.
That's how serious it is. I use Luis's real name. That's how serious I am.
Bob says,
I hope you're right.
Our tech is limited by the speed of light. We look at the past, and incoming signatures occurred at least millions of years ago. Is the James Webb telescope is somehow in a way going to allow us to see further?
That's a good question. If we're looking at a planet like TRAPPIST-1, one of the planets that's going to be studied, well, TRAPPIST-1 is the star. It's the star system. The planets have numbers like TRAPPIST-2b, 2c, whatever. Okay. I think it's about 9 light years away. So yes, if we're watching TRAPPIST and they just started How I Met Your Mother, we're gonna be seeing they just finished How I Met Your Mother. We're gonna be seeing episode 1 coming from them. It's only 9 years, right? We're not going to be. It is true that there are definitely stars and galaxies and things that are so distant from us that we are looking at light from billions of years ago.
But that's
not where we're hunting for techno.
Right, we're hunting for techno signatures 9 light years away. This is 9 years. We're going to be looking at 9 years into the past. That's it. Absolutely.
9 years ago, Mike didn't even still have hair. It's like not even that far back.
Toby AM out of $5 super chat. Scientists bid for the time on JWST for research. They will absolutely report any findings in their interest.
That's what they're trying to get money. And I can tell you, I spoke with a group that's studying the TRAPPIST system, and I spoke with 4 different scientists, one in France, one in Canada, one in England, and I think one in America. But they were all working together on this project. And I can tell you that each and every one of them is anxious to be the first person to announce that we have found signs of life around another planet.
Right.
There's nothing driving. Look, we didn't even know exoplanets existed 30 years ago. The first one was found 29 years ago. Since then, exoplanet studies, astrobiology is flooded with people from the millennial generation who are now in their 30s and 40s, who are professionally trained scientists who are going, I don't even wonder if there's life anymore. I'm just trying to find where it is. There is not a feeling that it's not out there.
Right, which is a huge shift. I mean, in 30 years,
Huge.
we've gone from not knowing and just being completely like, well, we don't know, and it's probably not, to there's absolutely life. We have, there's so many planets in the Goldilocks zone. It's incredible. John Russell says, I like Avi Loeb saying the sky is not classified. That's right. And again, that's why Avi is disavowing any access to, he wants nothing to do with government access to classified documents, because he wants the freedom to be able to speak and research and do his job as a scientist without any fear of the government getting it.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think if they put out more data and more camera angles of the gimbal go fast and tic tac, he'll take it.
Yeah, but unclassified.
He'll take it and run.
Lou. He'll take it unclassified.
You think so?
Yeah, he'll look at. He said it on our show, because I asked him that specific question. I said, if there's unclassified government data and it points you in the direction to tell and helps you identify a great place to aim your telescope, will you use that information? He said yes. He went on to say that he would not take classified data.
Well, let me ask this. Do you think, Christopher, that the discovery of technosignatures on a distant, or not distant, pretty close, nine light years away, do you think that announcement would help the UAP discussion or be a distraction from it?
I can't imagine that us confirming that there is life somewhere else, especially technological life, would move that discussion backwards. I'm sure there's some circumstance where it could, but man, it just feels like, I use these examples all the time, but when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, we didn't know there were even exoplanets, and that was a big defense for anti-UFO people. It's like, there aren't even planets out there. And if there are planets out there, they're not going to be rocky like the Earth and have atmospheres and oceans. And they're not going to be in the Goldilocks zone. And
but
even
here's
if
the
we
thing.
find all of that, they're not going to be close enough to send a ship here. Well, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe sending a ship with a living person on it is not immediately within the horizon, although I can tell you, I have a lot of report on warp drive concepts and a pretty amazing breakthrough by Sonny White coming out that tells you we're probably not even 100 years away from trying to build something like that. So somebody who's a mere 500 or 1,000 years ahead of us, traversing 7, 8, 9 light years at 20, 30% the speed of light. I mean, we can do that with the directed energy satellite now. We just haven't put the money into it. I'm going to be covering a solar sail that can get out to Neptune in a few days.
Wow.
I mean, really,
what do you?
This is stuff that's within our reach. These are propulsions that are within our reach.
Don't you think, though, every time something like this happens, they move the goal lines? It's like it's we found a planet with technosignatures, but that doesn't mean they're intelligent, or they'll move the goal line, or they'll say, well, there's no way, it's only 9 light years away. They can't be anywhere near as advanced as we are, right? Like, it's preposterous. They would. I feel like the goal line would just keep getting moved back.
But
I think that's a legit point. I do think that skeptics will always, I think to keep in mind, Luis, I think it's an old joke that a flying saucer could land on the White House lawn.
Right.
If a flying saucer could land on the White House lawn and ET could step out, half of the world would go, no, that's fake.
Right.
That's a deep fake. That's not real. That video's not real. I mean, do I think that humans will doubt it regardless of the information presented to them? Yes. But I do think within this community, within people that are looking for the answers about UAP, particularly people who've had the fortune or misfortune of seeing one and knowing it was definitely didn't look or feel like something they had ever seen before, I think we're going to get answers. And I think they're coming.
Yeah, and this idea of technosignatures too. I mean, if we were to identify a technosignature, that means that there is technology, right? So they're using electricity or some sort of power system or something
I know,
that
man.
allows us to.
I just pictured Neil deGrasse Tyson in my head, just giving some wild excuse that somehow is logical. You know, where everybody's like, no, yeah, it's not
Like
a big
using
deal, and
Nerf
then we just
balls
go
to
back to our
represent
regular.
something.
Are you saying perhaps he'll use his personal incredulity to ignore
Woo!
ignore?
Mataluni for the win.
Yeah, that was a score right there. Read this super chat.
John Russell, just because we haven't figured out how much or how to space travel in real time at high speeds and cover vast distances doesn't mean that other intelligences can't. Absolutely, I completely agree with that. Here's the weird thing, though, like the idea that any other civilization with technology that's living within 9 to 50 light years of Earth is only 1,000 or 2,000 years ahead or behind us seems wildly statistically improbable, doesn't it? Wouldn't it? I mean, unless there's some sort of relationship between us and them, some sort of panspermia, that might make sense. Otherwise, it seems like they would either be way ahead or way behind.
It's been a common argument used. Oh, did I get lost there?
No, you're good. We can hear you.
No, it's a common point that's brought up. It's a totally valid one. I mean, the universe is 13.8 billion years, more or less, and Earth is a little over 4 billion. So yeah, we could be at the end of the party. Everything could already happen. Entire interstellar civilizations could have fought a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and we didn't even know.
Like, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, right. Like, but it's absolutely true with the amount of time that's passed. Or on the flip side, we could be at the beginning of everything. There could be no life that's gotten sophisticated. We're the first ones. How sad is that? We're the first ones to figure out the light bulb and electricity. I don't know, man. All I want to tell you is this. If 150 years ago you came to anyone on the planet and told them, I'll get you from Paris to New York in 6 hours, they would tell you they're insane. Right. We can now do it in a hyper. We can put you on the most advanced military ship and have you from Paris to London in an hour. They'd be like, nah, you got to go across the ocean. There's all those months in the boat, right? There's all those months in the boat.
Well, yeah, exactly
I just don't think that the distance. Yeah, do I think it takes going faster than light speed to bring living beings inside a ship here? Yes, I think there's a good argument for that. But could a post-biological, artificially intelligent species that's traveling across space for a couple of 100 years is like a drop in the bucket time-wise. They could shut down for, really, I don't think that the distance is even a legit argument anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it kind of brings us back to what you were saying about what people would, the inability of people have to predict the future. We're so bad at it. And we were talking, I think we talked about this one time when you were on the show, maybe Chris, about the futurists who said that you wouldn't be able to travel on trains due to the potential for asphyxiation for the for the
I wasn't on,
air
but
to
I
keep you from
love
breathing.
that. I love that. And that's, what? When I was a kid, there was still an argument on whether or not a curveball was real. Are you aware that that's how recent that was?
No.
And in the 1970s, there was plenty of physics papers presented that the hand and the arm could just not generate enough speed, and it couldn't generate enough friction in the air to actually curve. And it wasn't until people started seeing it regularly on TV in the 60s and 70s, they go, I can see the thing curving. It really looks like it's curving. And sure enough, ultimately they figured it out. Yeah,
almost, it reminds me of that idea of
120 years ago. I think we're just figuring stuff out.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't they still not understand how bees lift up?
Yes.
Right. So yeah.
How big? We still don't really understand lift. Right. We can attain lift with an airplane, but we don't fully understand how it works. Same with bees. We don't understand how a bee's wings can keep it off the ground.
Is that true, Mike, that we don't understand lift? That I haven't heard before.
Yeah, look it up. We'll double check.
Look it up.
We'll have Jazz Shaw. Jazz Shaw will double check us when he gets in here.
Yeah, he knows stuff. Jazz.
All right, so we've got a super chat here, Lord Ludicrous Plaid, $4.99. Thank you so much. What if they are using technology that we can't detect? The whole idea of anti-gravity tech defies the law of physics as we understand and measure.
Okay, well, you know what? I have some articles coming about anti-gravity, and I'm talking to some people on the cutting edge of this research, and I would like to clarify something. Okay, gravity is just a natural force. Gravity is just something that exists. Finding a way within science or mechanics or engineering to counter gravity is exactly something we already do. We have lighter than air balloons. We have aircraft. So now countering it down on its property level, actually countering it down on how gravity works and countering that is not defying physics. It's just understanding physics.
Right.
It's just something we don't understand yet. We just don't understand gravity.
Right.
Right.
But it's a real thing. That's the great thing about gravity. It's real, and we can measure its effect. So we know it's real. It's just like UAPs. We know it's there. We just got to understand. We didn't even really detect dark matter properly until the last couple of years, and we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars trying to do that. So much money has been spent trying to detect dark matter. We thought it was there. Turns out probably is.
This is
Bumblebees use determination.
What?
It was written in the chat.
Bumblebees use
determination.
Sheer force of will.
Yeah, right. Attitude. This is from, they fly on pure attitude.
This is from Scientific America. Do scientists understand lift? On a strictly mathematical level, engineers know how to design planes that will stay aloft, but equations don't explain why aerodynamic lift occurs. There are two competing theories that illuminate the forces and factors of lift. Both are incomplete explanations.
See, so there you go. You were right, Mike.
It's crazy. It's crazy how many things we can do that we don't even understand, and how many things we don't understand that we've even yet to attempt to do.
I don't know that we completely understand electricity. We've been manipulating it for 150 years. We don't really completely understand it. We don't really. There's a lot of discussion as to how does AC even work. You know, there's a lot of regular discussions about this because engineers and scientists stumble on things and they stumble on solutions. We're still not even sure that selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor (SSRI) drugs are really treating depression by recycling serotonin, or are they doing something completely different in the brain or the body chemistry? No. So yeah, we do lots of shit we don't know. We just go, it seems to work, right?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we did with cocaine, right? Yeah. In the early 1900s, it was like, oh, you have a headache? Here, do a bump.
Do some cocaine about it.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
Well, and all the snake oil, those were little bottles of opium, and and nobody ever got addicted. I mean, maybe, but not as badly as we do now.
You know, the great thing about opium snake oil is that it really did live up to at least part of its promise, which it felt a lot better. Let's not miss out on that. I mean, you're dead within a few months, but you felt so much better.
It feels great, though.
Fantastic.
With a $5 super chat from G West, if an alien civilization is from a water world like Europa, for example, would we even be able to detect their technology?
So, turns out I released an article on the Debrief today. Might as well get a plug in. I've been here for an hour, right? So, at the where, Mike?
The Debrief.
Thank you. So at the Debrief today,
he keeps telling you to say Debrief.
It's like you pronouncing Jean-Francois's name, Kristen.
Jean-Francois.
So
there's a new paper put out by some researchers from the University of Cambridge about worlds called Hycean worlds, where they have hydrogen atmospheres and oceans underneath. Hycean is the term they're using. And what they found is, under a certain set of conditions, with the right atmospheric pressure and distance from their star and all these other things, they're actually perfect locations for life to evolve. And on top of that, they're way more plentiful than, what science fiction would call Class M planets, right? They're way more plentiful than Earth-like planets. They're called mini Neptunes or super Earths. They run about 1.5 to 2 times the size of an Earth, 2.5 times. And I would not be the least bit surprised if the first signs of biology, as a matter of fact, the article I put out today, he said they've already booked time, this researcher, on James Webb to look at one of these Hycean worlds that's, I think, about 15 light years away. And he thinks in the next 2 to 3 years, there's a very good chance that this planet they've been studying is going to show signs of biological life.
That's extraordinary.
Damn.
It's
Hey, when we get
exciting
back from this
Go
ahead, Kristen.
When you first asked the question, the only thing I could think of was like underwater pool lights. I'm like, well, we can detect those, can't we?
Oh, like Atlantean cultures.
Yeah.
Electricity underwater.
They got LED lights underwater. No, what I was gonna say is I want to talk a little bit about this light sail that can get us to Neptune in a few days when we get back after the reset. Is that possible?
Well, absolutely.
Okay, we finally have clarity on Jean-Francois Charlebois. No pressure on Kristen. She's just the one with the most beautiful accent. I am as gay as a picnic of finger food and champagne. We love you,
I love finger
Jean-Francois
food and
Charlebois.
champagne.
Amazing. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and do a room reset. We've got another amazing panel coming in. Did you have to pop out yet, Chris? I know you had to go. Do
No, there's nothing on my phone yet. So far, so good, my man. I'll give you guys a head up if I have to disappear, though. Thanks, Mike.
Fantastic. No worries. You just let us know. We're here for you, brother.
I do appreciate it.
All right, so if you're just joining us, we are speaking with Chris Plain today. He is the lead science writer at Debrief Media. Somebody asked what the Debrief is earlier in the chat, and so if you don't know, just go to www.thedebrief.org, right? ORG.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bunch of middle-aged white guys writing about science.
They cover science, they cover breaking science, breaking technology, they cover UAPs, they cover defense and space. And it's a great publication, and you should definitely go check it out. www.thedebrief.org. All right, so we've got an amazing panel also joining us right now. We're going to continue to break down Chris Plain's work as well as dig into some other breaking science and technology news. So joining us right now is the Emperor of Dolphin Town, Jazz Shaw, who is editor-reporter for Salem Media and The Debrief, U.S. Navy veteran, follower of the strange and unusual. Jazz Shaw, how are you, Jazz?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I've been really enjoying the show so far. Anytime I get to talk to Chris, this is great because he goes off into crazy towns so many times that, it's like, oh my God, how much fun can that be?
I love it.
Awesome. Well, we
Love
appreciate
you,
it,
Jazz. Love you, my man.
Great to see you, Jazz. We've also got science and tech nerd just like us here at the Singularity Lab, Rather Be Squidding. If you're interested in breaking science and breaking tech, you can also check out his channel, Rather Be Squidding. Welcome, Rather.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to be here. This is a really interesting conversation. Really looking forward to learning more about light sails.
God, yes. I almost cut him off. I was so tempted to remove him from the chat as soon as he started talking, but I wouldn't want to do that to you, Rather, because I love you.
It's such a good joke, though.
It is a good joke.
But we didn't.
So
we would have had to set it up. We didn't even set up the joke, so it wouldn't have been funny.
No, it would have been funny. It would have killed. It would have absolutely destroyed.
All right. So Chris, what were you talking about? Light sails that Rather's interested in?
Oh, I'm happy to tell you about that. The story is not yet written and the interview is not yet done. But when I was at this conference, the same conference where they had the UAP safety session, they had a session on these advanced propulsion concepts. And two of the engineers there, they're both the professors at mainstream colleges. I don't remember all the details off the top of my head. But they were talking about light sails. And they have a concept called Wind Rider. And the thing I found most interesting about this concept was just how viable now it was. And I say this because when I talk to alternative propulsion or exotic propulsion people, which I do a lot at this job, I hear one of two things. I either hear modern physics is wrong and here's why, and then they give you their alternative.
Uh-oh. We losing him?
Am I still here?
Chris,
No,
we lost you there for a second.
Oh, there he goes.
I think he was ahead of you. He
I
knew
bet he's getting. How much you want to bet he's getting a phone call from his parents?
That That could be
While
it.
he's online, I
Maybe
bet you that's what it is.
Well, we'll have him
If I
back
had to take a
in-
guess, or it's the cocaine, opium, and finger food champagne in UFOs.
Right. I think this would be a perfect opportunity to go over the poll from today. If Artemis, if you're ready to go and in the room, I think we could go ahead and do that because we're going to be discussing some of these advanced technologies that Chris has been writing about.
Well, she's going to be popping in a second, but you could remind people to please like, subscribe, share, check out the links below. We've got Patreons. Both of our podcasts are on iTunes and Spotify, so go check that out. Between the Singularity Lab and the Unidentified Celebrity Review, we do 5 shows a week, 5 days a week. So Tuesdays, Thursdays here, Monday, Wednesday, Friday on UCR. So come check us out.
And we should remind everyone also that Chris was taken offline by the Men in Black. I have an indirect feed. That's it. He was just wiped out. So,
I'll tell you what.
All the time. So
is I don't see Artemis here. I can read the poll results if you like.
Yeah, if you got them, go for it.
All right, cool. So which future tech will be commercially available first? Universal Translators, food replicators, photon torpedoes, or warp drive. So in last place was photon torpedoes. In second place was warp drive. In third, food replicators with 16% of the vote. And then the winner is Universal Translators with 60%. Artemis, you know what? Let's do it again.
Let's let Artemis do it. Come on.
Artemis, you do it.
Can you hear you? Check, check. Can you hear us?
She doesn't
Sorry, my
want to do it
headphones aren't
anymore.
working.
That's okay.
Of course.
No, can't hear
Okay.
us. Can you hear us?
Hello.
No, can't hear us.
Hello?
They're not working.
Oh, no.
All right.
Maybe not.
Well, it's
Oh my
okay,
goodness.
Artemis.
Technical
challenges.
difficulty.
All right, so we'll go ahead and pull her out. We'll let her fix her technical difficulties. But the winner
Okay, Alan.
was Universal Translators, and that was the one I would
Mhm.
assumed would be the winner
Me
as
too.
well. That would be the first thing we have. But could you imagine sitting in a room like this, but instead like Jazz is a French dude? Sorry, Jazz, I know I had to do that. Luis is from Africa. Rather is from Russia, and we're all just able to talk in real time and have a real time conversation with each of us understanding each other and having our guests understand us from any nationality, any region of the world. That is
It's super
truly
cool,
extraordinary.
But it almost makes you feel bad for people who speak like 4 or 5 languages. Like,
Like all that work, you did all
you
that
guys have
work.
this homocentric thing, though. When I voted on the poll, my question was, well, what if there's 5 of us, and 4 of us are Homo sapiens, and the other one's a dolphin? What if the other one is a chimpanzee? What if, are we going to have universal translators for every living thing that has the ability to communicate? Human language has commonalities across everything. Every individual society of humans that has met each other. It's almost never gone well. There's a lot of problems, but they do learn how to talk to each other. Nobody's ever talked to a dolphin. We've taught a couple of chimpanzees on how to push buttons on a computer, but there hasn't really been a conversation.
speak with
So-
sign language? Do some of them speak sign language?
Some of them do. Yeah, Coco had 120 signs she could do. But was the limit that Coco was too limited, or we just couldn't? She had to figure out,
Our
how to talk to us.
Right.
Whereas, aren't we supposed to be the smarter ones? Couldn't we figure out to say the various sounds that Coco said? And we never did that. And that was all part of my whole dolphin thing. By the way, buy the merch in the shop. Dolphin in a Tic Tac. Buy that. Because I had several. But yeah, I think Universal Translator, we still have a very biased view of that. If you'll accept that premise, we believe that, well, everybody should be able to speak what we speak. Well, why don't we speak what other intelligent life forms speak. You know, we're like, well, if you don't speak human, well, then you're stupid. Well, the dolphins could think the same thing about us, you know, so could the chimpanzees. So, you know, and you want to extrapolate that out to aliens. It's like, wait, what are you monkey people saying? What? You know, so I don't know. I think we limit ourselves. You know, you want a universal translator, we have to go beyond what we're doing right now. We don't have to expect everybody to speak our language. That's my take on it anyway. You know, I think, you know, if there is intelligence, it should be translatable in both directions, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Well,
that's
no,
my take on it.
you make a really interesting point, and to me, this comes down to almost a philosophical question: is that are we as humans, because I would consider myself a humanist. I don't know about you, Jazz. Maybe you consider yourself like an earthling or like a part of the entire fabric of what the world is. But I definitely, when you think about a philosophical question, like what, we need to save do we need to save the planet or do we need to save ourselves? And I would argue that we have to save ourselves because the planet will ultimately be okay. It will ultimately move on. It will ultimately heal itself. But if we want to, see our grandchildren having amazing, wonderful lives on this planet, then we've got to, take care of it, not for its benefit, but for ours. So it almost sounds like you're saying that we are so egocentric that every single thing we do revolves around us, and I don't think you're wrong. I think we can do better in that aspect as well.
I don't disagree with that, but I also think that being a humanist, being a human-centric civilization hasn't served us really well. If you look at the condition of the planet right now, it's not in great shape. And you and I, Mike, have had this discussion before. I would say to anybody that we have outgrown our planet by such a tremendous degree that right now we rely so much on our technology that if there was a massive EMP, whether it's from a solar flare or through a war and we lost our technology, the current population of the planet, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, it's not quite 8 billion, but it's like 7.5 something billion. If we lost all of our technology from a huge EMP, the population would be below 1 billion in a year and a half. I've read very convincing arguments that's the case, because we vastly outgrown our ability to sustain ourselves without the massive technology that we have in place, right? Yeah. So I mean I think we are a little bit aggressive. Is that the wrong word to use? Like, well, we deserve to be here. Anything else on the planet, well, that's a resource for us. But once you lose the ability to harness those resources or to use them in a way that makes you sustainable, then you fall off the top of the tree. That's my only point. I know it's depressing. I'm sorry to say that.
No, I think it's an interesting point. The question is, can we communicate more broadly across species? I think it's a fascinating question. Right. UFO Blueprint says, how about a common sense question? Anyone want their dog throwing in comments when he watches you have sex?
That would be weird.
Well, I got nothing on that. Okay.
Wait. Did you have a comment on that, or you don't have a comment on that? What did you say?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. I thought you wanted to field that one. Okay.
Yeah, my dog doesn't comment, but my dog doesn't comment when my wife and I have sex, but the cat does hold up ratings. It's like, it's like a 7.5, like difficulty rating.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
my wife's watching this, so I'm not making any comment right now. So.
Well, that would be awkward though, to put like a voice translator on your dog.
Oh, like an Up.
Yeah.
The movie Up, when you put the voice translator on the dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, do we want to know what they're thinking?
I don't know.
Cats don't meow in the wild. Like domesticated cats, they made up the meow sound to communicate with us or to make us think they're cute or whatever. Really? So, yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Well, I'm gonna
It
disagree
kind of
with
blew my
that.
mind.
You know, crows have an amazing language, and I've spent a number of years researching all this. So many fascinating studies have been done. Crows don't just caw caw. They don't just caw caw with a certain number of caws. The individual caws have these rising and falling patterns. Crows have an amazingly complicated language. We just don't recognize it because we've never figured out how to speak it.
Oh, they're super smart. You shouldn't mess with them either.
Exactly. And it runs across the whole spectrum. I mean, there are people who sincerely believe, and I know I'm going to open myself to ridicule, that plants have very complicated languages, that they have intelligence, that they communicate. They do it in different ways than we do. Yep. There's like communication going on with life everywhere. But we've always been sort of prejudiced, like, well, we have all these languages and words and all that, and we don't understand what the hell you're saying. So you're just dumb animals and plants. Well, it might be more complicated than that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's fascinating. Go ahead, brother.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that once the James Webb Telescope goes and finds that technosignature, maybe the number 2 thing we do after studying that space probe is try to establish contact with them, communication. And I think that it's probably going to be very hard. And if we wanted to get a head start on that, we should be trying to communicate with dolphins. That'd be the good first
And we
step.
have been for more than a century.
Yeah.
You know what? The dolphins know what we're saying. They respond to signs when you hold them up. They're like, yeah, we get it. We have yet to have one question and answer with a dolphin. And they have brains bigger than ours and a 45 million year head start. And we haven't figured out how to talk to them. But they're like, oh, yeah, hold up that sign. If I get the fish, I'll do this thing. They figured it out, but we can't ask them anything, So I don't know if we're quite as smart as we think we are.
Is anyone studying that, Jazz, that you're aware of? Is anybody studying like the vocal patterns of dolphins and the responses of other dolphins to those vocal patterns?
Is anyone studying? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah. I published an article at the Debrief early part of this year, going back and tracking the history of that. People have been trying to work on this since the very early 1900s. There have been people who spent their entire careers going and just monitoring and listening to all the beeps and clicks and all that and trying to reproduce them. And then, putting signals into dolphins in tanks. They put mirrors in tanks with dolphins. The dolphins go up and look at the mirrors and they do everything that humans do. Oh, is that me? Oh, cool. What do I look like? Let's do this. Let's do this. And the dolphins respond, and a lot of tests have been done. This goes back to like the 1950s, where you would hold up different signs where this sign says, if you dive down and then come back up, we'll give you a fish. Like the third time you hold the sign up, the dolphin's doing it. The dolphin's like, oh, we understand your language. You're good. We have no idea what they're saying. We can't reproduce their language. So I wrote about this, and we talked about this on an earlier show. Who's smarter, us or the dolphins? Who's really dummies? They understand what we're doing, but we're just like, what? What's that, Flipper? Is Timmy lost in the well? And we have no idea. So, no, I think we have a lot of prejudice. Well, we're the most intelligent species. Are we really?
I think John would agree with you here. With the $20 super chat. I have experienced several of my pets speaking English words and sometimes short phrases. Are we talking birds here, John? What do we got?
They have a different they make slightly different sounds. Like this cat who somebody asked, her name's Rolanda Hooch. Again, Harry Potter. We call her Ro. I went in the other room earlier and I said hi to the kid and she was like, oh, like, hello. They do stuff.
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious to any pet owners that pets are conscious, right? But that has been controversial. Like, that's not even, I don't know if that's accepted in the scientific community, but it seems obvious to me.
Well, I'm shocked, and I'm wondering if anybody knows, is anybody trying to crack these languages with AI? Like the dolphin?
That's the new frontier right there, brother.
That is the new frontier, yep. And there is work going on. I saw a few studies, and one of them, I brought up crows earlier, because there is an AI study with crows. They sit there, and if you just watch crows, they're very organized, but they just do like caw, 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 caw. It goes up to sometimes like 11 or 12. And other ones will repeat it. Other ones will do something different in response. And for a long time, that's all we were studying. There is an AI study going on that I should really do an article for the Debrief about this, because it was a fascinating thing. But it's not just caw, 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 the number of them. They have individual inflections in the caws
Right.
that go up and down. And when you start digging into that, there's a really complex language there. And the dolphins have a complex language, and all sorts of animals have complex languages. And we've been very, I don't know, sort of arrogant over history, going, well, because you can't actually, produce an alphabet and speak French, then you're just not smart. There's a lot of communication going on out there, I think.
For
and
sure.
Science has been delving into that.
No, there's tons of communication going out there. John Ross says, our dog who hated nail trims was going Cujo at the vet, and vet said, relax, you're okay. And all of us heard him say, no, I'm not. Was it more like a rum? Like, was it like that? The vet was gobsmacked. It's, I mean, our animals' ability to mimic and, like communicate with us is very, it doesn't even have to be verbal. There's so many nonverbal communications going on all the time.
Right.
But to your point, it's like we also have a very distinct vocal cord, right? Whereas all animals have different vocal cords. So it's no wonder I can't speak dolphin, because I can't make the clicks and whistles that a dolphin can make. But to your point about AI, being able to understand, utilizing AI to understand the communications between dolphins and between dolphins and humans and dolphins and other animals will give us an ability to understand those. And then later we can use computers to reproduce that language and speak back to them. So maybe we're not as far off of a universal translator between animals as we would think, based on what Chris had reported recently about what's going on with universal translators with humans. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Chris, from your article?
Oh,
Nice
wait.
transition, Mike.
Oh,
See
damn
that
it.
transition?
Damn.
Did you see that?
That was a great transition, but I also had, first there was UFO Blueprint asked a question. Hey, Rather, how many cougars have you talked to? Which I think is a great question. Rather, how many?
Every once in a while, we do speak.
So like what, 7?
Sure, that's a fair estimate.
Okay. And then my question to it, let's say we figured out what the dolphins were saying and we can put on a translator and talk back to them. Do you think that would be like opening the doors of the Library of Alexandria? Do you think they'd be able to give us like a history of the planet through all the other animals in the sea? Or or do you think it would just be like, I like fish?
Yeah, people would be disappointed.
You think we'd be disappointed?
Yeah.
I wonder, because
asking everyone.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, we'll pass this one around. Kristen thinks we'll be disappointed. I think I would also agree with that, because I think that oral history is poor at reproducing realities of ancient times, right? So like if we're able to talk to the dolphin, what does the dolphin know about, what was going on with the dolphins, 1 million years ago without a written history? Like, how would they know anything?
Well, maybe that bigger brain is able to.
That's an area that I completely disagree with, because you go back to like the indigenous people of Australia and the dream times. They have like these language monuments. It's not the right word, but they have oral histories that they use generation and generation to teach one after the next and pass knowledge on to them. And if you don't have a way to write things down, or a physical ability or even need to write things down, you can still pass information on. Our species has a lot of information that we pass down that wasn't written down, and it turns up in surprising places.
Right, but would you and I know that today, Jazz? Like, would you be able to, share that with me today if you had an oral history? It'd still be very limited, right?
Oh, definitely. There's limits because there's translation limits, right? But we still go, and we have people going and doing research like down in the most remote areas of South America. And there are people down there when you learn their language, and it takes a long time. They're talking about things that have been passed down for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years.
Right.
Whether you believe it or not, whatever, that's up to you. But it is information that gets passed along.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. I just have this feeling like there is a transition, the ability to pass down information from generation to generation, even if you don't have TVs or CDs to record it on, or anything like that. We've been around a long time. We're used to dealing with a technological civilization that didn't exist until the 1900s, but we were around for a long time, and a lot of information got passed down. And are we unique in that, or do other life forms have the ability to gather information and pass that along? I take a more expansive view of that. I think all life kind of transmits information.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I'm sorry, rather, what'd you have?
Well, I guess, if you're talking about, dogs and cats, I say that you probably aren't going to get anything that interesting. But what really interests me is potentially, like the forest and stuff like that. The idea that there might be a type of Pandora-like consciousness that ties all the trees together. And that would be a very interesting
kind of a Gaia consciousness.
And, just to play devil's advocate and throw the woo out there. Maybe when people do CE5 type stuff, that they're tuning into that and not aliens.
The mushroom god.
Yeah.
100%. Well, no, I mean, it is fascinating. And this idea that there is, everything within nature, whether it's conscious or not, maybe has a different form of consciousness, because what we understand as consciousness may be very different than what other forms of life experience as consciousness, because it's just a different, a different wavelength, a different way of being, a different form of extracting information from the environment and passing it on. I mean, you look at the mushroom, the fungi kingdom, right? That kingdom has extraordinary communication going on underground at all times, not only between itself, but between all of the species of insects in the earth and the trees' roots. And they're communicating via chemical transitions between the mushroom mycelium and the tree roots. I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, in many ways, the mycelium network seems like a brain neuron network, right? Like it's very interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is kind of a neural network. It's a neural pathway of communication underground, and that's what the entire forest is built on that neural pathway of mycelium. It's fascinating.
Well, we just had a recent article at the Debrief from some biologists who were talking about the fact that there are trees, you can cut them down entirely and they regrow back. And it's like, well, the tree has no leaves. It has no ability to, convert sunlight, any of that. And when they went and started digging and literally digging and studying, other tree roots from trees in the immediate area tied into the roots of that tree and started feeding it.
Yeah.
And gave it the amount of sap and the amount of energy that the leaves of the other tree are producing until it could start shooting up saplings and start regrowing again. So in a way, I realize it's maybe a kind of sketchy definition, but it was communication. And it was like, wow, I'm in trouble. Somebody cut me down, and there was a response that was very targeted to allow it to survive. And in a way, they were communicating to keep their species going. I mean, is that not communication in a way?
It is in my book. I mean, that sounds exactly like what communication is because of the outcome, right? That it's triggering an event.
Yeah, not only that, it's a cooperation and self-sacrifice, something that you usually associate with intelligence.
Right. and sometimes not. In the human case,
Well, not
John
so much
Russell
for
said,
people, but
Yeah, exactly.
for the rest of the life. Yeah.
Well, yeah, John Russell says $10 super chat. Thank you so much, John. We really appreciate the donation. Science has
Thank you, John.
proven that trees will send chemicals out through their roots that is meant to communicate to other trees to stay away and not encroach on the sending tree's territory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that.
Right.
Yes.
And this is the kind of stuff that, as I said, I'm a humanist because I like my entire DNA is built to continue the legacy of the human being. But when it comes to our relationship to the earth, we're not disconnected, right? It's just it's a perception that we're disconnected. It's not a reality. It's something that we we think, we believe, we perceive, but it's certainly not the truth. We're all connected.
Chris Payne says corals have genes for communication by sound.
I have to go look that up. I haven't seen that one, but I certainly believe it.
They also have giant cocks.
Thanks for contributing that.
Great, Mike. To bring it back to
just
normal
true.
podcast
It's just a fact.
Are you talking about corals or barnacles?
Coral. Oh, is it barnacles? It's barnacles.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not coral.
Sorry, go ahead, Rather.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's interesting that we make the distinguish between, natural and unnatural technological artifacts when really, to your point, yeah, we are nature. Everything we create is part of nature. You look at cities, it's really no different than anthills. It's just we create them. But yeah, it's nothing unnatural about that.
No, I think Rather makes a good point. I mean, how do you define technology? We have already found many examples of like chimpanzees and other primates that reform sticks to poke into nests with termites. That's actually tool building. There are a lot of other examples of tool building, not building rockets or anything, but there's a lot of animals that engage in tool building. And for a long time, we believed that, we're the only ones who use tools. So that's the evidence that, we're the smart dominant species. Well, we advanced a lot further, but there's a lot of tool use going on out there. So, and now we can delve off, and the show won't be long enough. The whole thing about consciousness and, how much conscience you have and how much can you apply that to your environment. But we certainly excelled beyond anyone else on the planet, but there's a lot of intelligence out there. There's a lot of language out there. There's tool building, like we said, a lot of other stuff going on out there. And we do get a little bit arrogant, I think, at times, thinking that, well, we're the only intelligent species. And I really think that's not true.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, we got Chris Payne back. What's going on, brother?
Yes, corals do have the genes to communicate by sound. That was something I mentioned earlier. That was a story I covered for the Debrief. There was a young lady who's a scientist right there in Florida, and she was finishing high school and college at the same time. And she put out a published peer-reviewed scientific paper about corals communicating, having the gene to communicate with sound. And this is the thing about working at the Debrief. I see all these amazing stories. Jazz is totally right. Like, there was a story the other day I just didn't have the time to cover about how tomatoes are using electricity to communicate between the fruits to warn each other of predators. Yes,
I saw that.
Right? Yeah, that was in like these news things that Jazz and I get. We get these like news story like announcements before they're made public. And that was one that was made public, is tomatoes are using electricity to communicate.
And you were the one just confirmed for the previous conversation, corals have huge cocks.
Yes, I've heard that. Yes, I heard that from Rather Big
I wanted to make sure that we had the science right on this.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay.
Yes, it was actually Prefer to be Octopussying who made that comment, but I could use that joke and nobody finds it.
Okay, we've ridden that horse as far as we can go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that being said, why don't you take us through a little bit of this research that you did? Because it was really interesting. You wrote 2 articles recently. One had to do with Star Trek tech, and the other one that you actually relate in Star Trek tech was about scientists finally being able to convert light into matter and antimatter, which would
totally insane.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, totally insane. So we know, for instance, at the CERN or at the Large Hadron Collider, that they can create antimatter if they smash stuff together hard enough, right?
Yep.
But this theory was, we know, for instance, if you take matter, the sun is matter that's being converted into light through nuclear fusion, right? Or if you light a piece of paper on fire, you can watch matter be converted to light right in front of you.
Right.
But based on Einstein's equations, you should be able to go the other way. You should be able to take light, and if you slam it together hard enough in the right circumstances, create matter. And so because they were in a unique situation to do this, I forget the exact research team that did it, but they had the equipment that would let them essentially, a super collider, take light. In this case, they used photons of gold, and because they would zip around really fast in the super collider, once they got to about 99% the speed of light, they would create a cloud of photons around themselves. I'm sorry, a cloud of protons. Well, I get lost in the weeds with some of these. Cloud of protons. And when they hit light going the other way, the protons and electrons would jam together and create matter and antimatter. So in effect, in a single step process, they basically slammed light together and made it go the other way, created matter and antimatter out of that collision.
And just for the record, Photons of Gold is the name of my next rap album. I'm going to be giving Christopher Plain credit for that.
Nice.
This is a step one to alchemy, right? Creating gold from nothing, literally creating gold out of thin air.
It is alchemy, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's incredible.
Yep. So that was part of that. The Star Trek article itself was really a culmination of. I kind of looked back at a lot of the work I've done in the 9 months at the Debrief, and saw that Universal Translators, food replicators, tractor beams, scanning for signs of life at a distance, photon torpedoes, so many of these things that are in Star Trek that seemed. In 1966, when Gene Roddenberry was proposing these in the TV show, they were all theory. We had lasers in laboratories, but we did not have any of these other things. And what I found in researching that stuff and putting that story together was just how close we were to all of these different things. Now, there was also the sub-headline that was left off of the article. The headline was 7 Star Trek technologies moving towards reality. The sub-headline, I don't know if it's still there, is one that definitely isn't. I can't see it. What does it say?
Nope, it got jacked.
Yeah.
Your editor said...
Yeah, MJ. So the point was, I had all of these technologies that are represented in Star Trek. And of course, there are other ones that I didn't get into, but I got into the core ones, like the transporter and warp drive and phasers and tractor beams and photon torpedoes. And I said, how close are we to doing these various things? And I was shocked at how close so many of these things really are toward reality. We have tractor beams. They work on a microscopic level or a very small level, but we have the ability to use light to pull physical objects towards us. We have, the experiment you just asked me about, Mike, where scientists were creating matter and antimatter. Right. The photon torpedo is just a bomb with antimatter in it. That's all it is in Star Trek. Now, what I put in the article is a gram of antimatter would be the equivalent explosive potential about 3 times the bombs that were dropped during World War II. And that's just a gram of antimatter. Now, keeping in mind, under our current technological ability, they project it costs about $62 trillion to harvest a full gram of antimatter. And that's not storing it or loading it into a bomb or anything. Wow. But the simple fact that we can make it now is the hardest step towards a photon torpedo.
Where did they even get that number from?
Yeah, so that was the guy
62
who,
trillion.
yeah, so what he did is he said how much antimatter is created by the Hadron Collider during each collision, and then just ran the numbers. How much does it cost to do each one of those collisions? And how much is added up? And he said, if I need to get to a gram, how many collisions, how much electricity, how many experts, how much material? And yeah, he came up with an estimation of 62.5 trillion. So
Jesus
Can
it's
you
about
give us an
half as much
idea-
as what it takes to make the Avatar upcoming movies.
But those Avatar movies will make a return.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, they'll make their money back.
Antimatter, the super collider is not making a return. No.
So, can you give us an idea? Okay, so I know, I mean, the science is super complex here, but like, can you help me understand like what antimatter is? Like, can you give me a base idea of what it means to create antimatter?
So, when to my understanding is at the Big Bang, we created theoretically equal amounts of matter and antimatter. Basically, matter is what we are all made of, and the material around us is made of. And in physics, just like in much of the world, everything has a pretty much, especially in physics, an opposite equal partner. So for every particle of matter, there should be a particle of antimatter. So how it works, what the actual physics behind what antimatter is, and how all that works, you would need someone more educated than me. But I can tell you.
I mean, do they even have the answer for it? Right? You said
Yeah,
earlier that's
so,
like
it's
how
like
many
anything else.
billions have we spent on this, and we don't have an answer, and yet we keep funneling money into this, but for some reason we can't give the UAPTF any money, or Avi Loeb, or SCU, or any of these other. $20 million is the most they get, and
it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing when you talk about fusion reactors, right? Because fusion has always been the holy grail of nuclear power because it doesn't have waste. You're basically building your own sun from energy. So traditionally, when we created nuclear power plants, we're using fission, which we're basically splitting the atom and using the energy from that to turn into electricity. But with fusion, we're basically creating a sun, and that's perpetually 30 years away, right? Every 10 years, they're like, we're 30 years away. We're 30 years away. And it's just like, it's almost like we're on this treadmill getting there. But
can I tell you what's really changed, Mike, in that, though?
Yeah.
What has really changed? Because I talked to a lot of people. I talked to Jason Casper. He's a professor at the University of Huntsville in Alabama. And he's working on a pulse-fusion rocket concept for DARPA. And what's really held so much of that back is what we finally have now, which is better computing power.
Right.
Simulations that they would try and do on these things, they couldn't even build a good fusion simulation. These guys run entire simulations now for weeks, and then when they go try the practical tests, it matches the simulation. Because the hardware, the software, the equipment, we really just didn't have the tools to do nuclear fusion in any practical sense. But I can tell you there are dozens of fusion projects around the world, just not the ITER reactor. That's the biggest and most expensive one. But there are projects all around the world, and fusion is a matter of time. That one, we know it's real. Like you said, stars are doing it, and we're doing it in labs. Are we over Unity yet? No. They're not putting in more energy than they're getting out. Although some experiments are doing that, it's just the complexity to get there results in more composite energy, human energy, capital things put into it to get it out. So it's not economically viable as a power source. But we're already over Unity in some of these experiments where they're getting out more energy than they're putting in. Fusion is working, and that's all in the last 10 years.
Yeah, this is within the last few days. I believe this broke 3 days ago.
A Wright brothers moment for energy. What some are calling a key achievement in nuclear fusion. It was announced earlier this week. Scientists used 192 gigantic lasers to supercharge a pellet of hydrogen the size of a BB inside the enormous Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California. That created a nuclear fusion burst of 10 quadrillion watts of power for a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second. Nuclear fusion is the same reaction that occurs in the sun and has long been a goal of scientists around the globe. To explain what all of this actually means is Michio Kaku. He joins us now. He's a professor of theoretical physics at the City College and City University of New York, author of The God Equation, The Quest for the Theory of Everything. I wish we had time to explain the theory of everything, Professor, but how big a breakthrough is this and what could it really mean?
Well, this is a giant step toward the holy grail of energy research. It hit break-even to extract more energy than you put in. And this could eventually become a game changer. You see, fusion reactor is carbon neutral. It does not create carbon dioxide. It does not create copious quantities of nuclear waste that you find in fission plants with uranium. It does not melt down. You cannot melt down a fusion reactor. And the fuel is seawater. Hydrogen from seawater could be the basic fuel. So it's too good to be true. And we're taking a giant step forward. However, there's some drawbacks that I should also point out as well.
Why don't you go to those drawbacks and let me just summarize what I think I just heard you say. This is a really big breakthrough, number one, and number two, it is safer theoretically than what we think of as conventional nuclear power.
That's right. This could be the energy source of the future. Cheap, too cheap to meter, using seawater, for God's sake, as its fuel, can't melt down, creates almost no nuclear waste. What's wrong? Why don't we have these now? Well, it turns out that when you heat hydrogen to tens of millions of degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature of the sun, things become unstable. And that's why this reaction took place over 100 trillionth of a second. Just a snap of the finger. So in other words, we want to have a continuous stream of energy, not bursts of energy like what we found here. Now, the French are also in a race. They have the ITER fusion reactor in Cardache, France. They're building their version of the fusion reactor. So we have a healthy competition now. 2 gigantic fusion reactors, one in the United States, 3 football fields in length, and another in the southern France, costing about $10 billion.
Very, very interesting. Professor Kaku, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
So, I mean, this is it's a pretty huge breakthrough. I mean, we're not there yet, but it seems that they are making real progress. And the fact that they were actually able to execute this and see,
they didn't even get into the main point, which was weird, Mike. I'm sorry to cut you off again.
No, go ahead.
The main point was over unity. They got more energy out than they put in. That is why it was a breakthrough. We've created fusion reactors before with lasers. They do them regularly at ITER, the reactor in France that he mentioned. But this, putting in X amount of energy and getting Y out and Y being bigger than X, that is huge. That's the first.
Right. And what we're
hold on, Jazz is trying to talk, but he's muted.
Jazz, you're muted, brother. Check.
Oh yeah, I guess it was. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, we did that in the '80s in New Jersey. My brother and I both worked in nuclear energy, and they had the first tiny, a little more than you get out than you get in New Jersey at a plant that's still running down there in the 1980s. But they never got much further. But yeah, fusion energy is real. And going back to the previous point, antimatter is real. We've been creating antimatter for a while. The CERN Hadron Collider has created more antimatter than we've ever made before. The total amount is still, it's hard to describe how small of amount we've actually made because, it's just a few,
micrograms.
Particles.
Micrograms.
Yeah, and micrograms is probably huge compared to what we've actually made. But we have made them. They immediately collide with real matter and they destroy themselves. But antimatter isn't a theory. It's not science fiction. It's real. There is antimatter. And if you could create enough of it, you would have a limitless power source.
Isn't antimatter used in like MRI machines and stuff?
No,
we don't have any usable antimatter.
Yeah, we have no applications.
We have not produced any. We haven't produced enough to make, I don't know, like a piece of earwax in your ear in the entire history of humankind. But we have produced some, and it is real. And it was apparently, the theory is that about almost half after the Big Bang of the universe was antimatter. And the antimatter and the matter all just wiped each other out, and there was enough matter left over, and that's what the universe is made of. Because that one could have gone the other way. We could be all antimatter, whatever, we don't know. But you can produce it, but the amount of energy it takes to produce it is so grossly above the amount of useful energy you get out of using it if you contain it. At this point, it's not really plausible. You guys can debate that if you have better information, but that's my understanding. We've only made minuscule amounts of it,
Right.
and it could produce tremendous amounts of energy because it destroys itself when it hits actual matter. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, so sorry, Jazz. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I don't totally understand this either. But I remember reading about this recently about positron emission.
And we haven't really
tomography.
captured it or controlled it or anything. Like you said, it immediately dissolves itself. It immediately collides with real matter and immediately dissolves itself. So we haven't captured any antimatter that we've created. We've just imaged that it's been created and went, there it is.
Like in CERN, we watched one positron, and one opposite particle momentarily, electron, and then they hit each other, and then they produce a burst of energy, and you can measure that and go, oh, well, that was a collision, but it only existed for a minuscule fraction of a second.
Yep.
What were you gonna say, Rather?
So there's a thing called PET scans, which is positron emission tomography, which apparently uses positrons, which is antimatter, to produce high-resolution images of the body.
Positrons are not antimatter.
Well, this says this says PET is a medical imaging device that uses antimatter to observe metabolic processes in the body, such as cancerous tumors. Do CAT scans use antimatter? A PET scan stands for positron. As we use a positron,
I had somebody send that to me, but I was told that was something of a misnomer.
That would be news to me.
It's not truly a positron.
It says it's the antiparticle of the electron, so that might be where the rub is. It's not an anti-mass.
A positron is a positively charged particle, and an electron is a negatively charged particle, but they're both particles of matter.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up too. It looks like it's just. It does. Medical imaging,
and I think that they do use, collect very. I don't know if they're. I don't think they collect it from CERN. I think someone in chat was talking about a different way. The positron comes from matter due to beta decay. Delta Uniform Tango Charlie Hotel Echo Sierra Sierra is telling us.
This says antimatter is becoming increasingly common in medical technology. One technique called positron emissions topography PET scan allows for the flow of positron emitting fluid through the body where an antimatter positron encounters a normal matter electron. No, it's antimatter. Wherever an antimatter positron encounters a normal matter electron, the pair annihilates and produces particles whose trajectories trace back to the point of annihilation, allowing a computer to reconstruct the shape of the structures of the body. So they're not capturing antimatter, they're just using it. They're leveraging the existence of antimatter in imaging. I'll send you the articles. We can dig into
that
this.
Sounds amazing.
It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Because I wasn't aware you could do it without having a massive collision.
Well, yeah, the Duchess in here is saying that the positron comes from matter due to beta decay. So, I'm not totally familiar with that either, but I think it's very interesting. I don't know if I would volunteer for this medical procedure. I don't love the idea of antimatter coursing through my veins, but
I will. I will definitely volunteer rather for this. Yes.
Well, we just took Michelle to the MRI machine. I don't remember anybody mentioning anything about an antimatter MRI machine, but I think that would have perked my ears for sure if I heard that.
It's interesting because this article does say a PET scan uses antimatter positron that encounters a normal matter electron. I don't know. This is what it says. I don't know.
I mean, you know who would have the answer?
Cool.
Who?
Michael Spacaluni.
There is no objective reality anymore.
Yep. Yep. This is the internet.
It's logical.
It's
See,
logical.
and I'm over here thinking like the cat toast theory is a better idea.
Oh, cat toast for eternal energy. When the
Cats always land on their feet. Toast always lands butter side down, so he tapes them together.
right, you tape the cat and the toast together, and you'll get a perpetual motion machine.
It's like an old Russian energy drink commercial. It's fabulous.
Oh, okay. I have not seen that. Please send me the link.
Oh,
At least if I can find it, that would
It's
be
like
actually
called
great.
cat toast. It's
I wonder if I can find that on
hilarious.
YouTube. Cat toast. We're approaching the end of the show here.
We are.
Oh wait, I got it. I found
Thank
it.
God.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, wait. There you go.
Okay, hold on. Let me get you this 1 second. This is the here we go, and share.
Dun, dun, dun.
We can hardly contain our.
Yeah.
Can you hardly contain yourself?
Yeah, I could literally hear the show screeching to a halt.
Let's get poll results.
That's
Is this it, Kristen?
I think so.
It's so dumb. I love
This
it.
is fantastic.
I'm sold.
oh my god. Oh yes. There you go.
Fantastic.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
That's my kind of commercial.
Avoided a
I'm good.
catastrophe.
Oh, what a catastrophe. Thank you so much for that. Speaking of catastrophes, it was amazing to have you on the show today. All of you, it's been extraordinary. Christopher Plain, if people want to learn more about you, your writing, the Debrief, where might they learn?
That's the best place to go, man. Go to the Debrief. We got amazing writers there. Jazz is there. Ryan Sprague is there sometimes. We got the whole crew. Tim, Mike, MJ, got a great crew there. And if you want to hear my stupid thoughts, follow Kristen Mataloni. She just retweets me constantly.
I haven't figured it out.
Constantly retweets me. A little crazy.
Try.
Plain PLAIN _fiction.
Yes.
Make sure you follow this cat on Twitter.
Dude
Chris,
is
truly a
way
pleasure. Follow him
smart.
over at the Debrief. And we'll talk to you soon.
You got it.
Thank you, brother.
Bye.
Thanks for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, Rather Be Squidding. If you're interested in cutting edge technology, and you want to see things go a little further than a scientist might take it, you want to have some fun speculation and extrapolation, you want to go follow Rather Be Squidding. Rather, how can people find you on like Twitter or maybe other social medias?
At Be Squidding, YouTube channel is Rather Be Squidding.
Fantastic. Rather, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you aboard, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Unidentified Celebrity Review.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, brother. Jazz Shaw, the Dolphin Emperor himself. Always a pleasure being with you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us and for all you're doing to promote the Big Phone Home 2. If people want to follow you, Jazz, where might they do so?
Don't even bother. Just follow Luis and Michael. Really. Trust me, I got a ton of people follow me. Support the Big Phone Home 2. Support these channels. And everything you do is going to help end UAP secrecy. And we need more informed people who will come out and try to get the government to be more open. We would like to have open hearings in Congress. We want more information getting out there. Don't worry about me. Take care of these guys. They are doing the Lord's work. And we need to get this information out there. And we got a big thing coming up next weekend. They're going to tell you about it. I've been sending information about it everywhere that I can possibly get out to, just like they did last time. We're going to make a difference and help these guys do that.
You're the man, Jazz. Hey, man, thank you so much
for the landing as always.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, brother. Thanks for stopping in today.
Thank you, Jazz.
We'll talk to you soon, brother. All right. Bye-bye.
Maybe I should make you guys some cocktail recipes for the big phone home.
Ooh, yeah. Just I don't want to get started before like 7.
Well, here's the
Maybe
thing.
for the last hour on the cocktail.
Well, you know what's funny is, and I'm sure if I read the fine print of the YouTube thing, we probably shouldn't be having alcohol and tobacco on the live stream.
Oh yeah, that's true. We could get demonetized for that. Yeah, we got to be careful.
Yeah,
it's true.
So, is what it
Tina
is.
Tomaszewski. Right?
Just playing through.
Is that right?
Tomaszewski.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for being with us. Tina Mims, thank you so much. UFO Blueprint, thank you for giving Luis such a hard time. Mystery Goat, great to have you. David Gosling,
love it.
Night Gazer, Mims, Rather Be Squidding. Amazing to have you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you check out. We've got, if you're on the road and you can't watch us live one day and you want to catch it on the go, make sure you go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you download your podcast, you'll find us, the Singularity Lab and the Unidentified Slayer Review. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so. And tomorrow, who do we got on UCR tomorrow?
Tomorrow we got John Greenwald.
Friend
John Greenwald's coming to hang out. We're going to talk about the Showtime UFOs documentary that he was in. And also he's been dropping some articles today and updates on, Bill Nelson and NASA. And there's a whole nother thing that I haven't been able to read yet, so I don't even want to talk about it yet. But yeah, it'll be fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us here at the Singularity Lab. Make sure you join us for the Big Phone Home 2 coming up Labor Day weekend, September 4th, 5th, and 6th. And we've got just a tremendous amount of amazing people. We're going to be kicking off day one. Who do you got first kicking off on day one?
Ooh, man, day one. You know what? Let's pull it up. I'll give you the whole day one schedule. How about that?
Why not? Let's do it.
Why not? So we've got day one to open the show. It's going to be Zach Seichi, John Greenwald, Jamarl Thomas. And then hour 2, we're going to be doing the Zignal, Dave Partridge, Graham Rangel, and Nick Pope. And then hour 3, it's going to be Max Moskovich, Team Disclosure, or Disclosure Team with Vinny. And they do the Vinny and Max UAP show. And then we've got also Christopher Sharp and Jay Malibu, Project Unity, as we like to call them. And then for the 1 o'clock hour, we've got the guys from ICER, Felipe Maia and Moraro Correra. So that'll be really cool. They've got a full hour to talk to us about ICER and the things they're doing over there. And then at 2 o'clock, we've got Ladies Hour with Jane Kyle. She's going to have Jess Rogie, Lynn Wallington, and NK Crata, and they're going to be interviewing Lou Elizondo. So it's going to be a full ladies hour interviewing Lou, so that'll be really, really fun. And then after that, we've got the journalist panel with Alex Sears, Jazz Shaw, Daniel Otis. And then we've got New Murderers Row with UFO Jesus, Ryan Sprague, Sean Raish, and Carl Vibe. So that'll be awesome panel. And then at 5 o'clock we've got UFO Garage, Ben and Joe, and then we've got Dan Warren, Dave Scott, and Lee Schmidt, who does all of our graphics for the show. And then we're going to end the show with just all of our friends that help us, pretty much all the time.
Lou Elizondo's neck will show up.
Very good chance Lou Elizondo's neck is going to show up somewhere in this day. But yeah, Daniel Miller, UFO Dad, Jesse Peak. I'm hoping to get the Dragon. I'm waiting for his answer back. Alien Girl 111, Britain Wonderland, and Aaron Desario will be joining us to wrap up the show.
Says, I wonder what Jamarl does not have an opinion on.
Ooh, there ain't nothing that man ain't got an opinion on. I promise you that. But dude, I'll just give you a little sneak peek. We got Jamarl Thomas and Danny Sheehan in the same room on day 3. I'm not going to tell you who else is in that panel, but it's going to be a 2-hour panel. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, we'll be kicking off day 2 with Avi Loeb and Ralph Blumenthal in the same room kicking things off, which is going to be dope. Ralph reached out to me. He's like, "Can I be with Avi?" He's like, "I just finished his book and I really want to talk to him." I was like, "Oh yes, absolutely."
Of course you can be with Abby. Yes, please.
A New York Times author just asked me if he could be on the same panel as Avi Loeb, a Harvard astrophysicist. I'm like, what is my life? Like, what is happening? It's pretty awesome.
Yep. It's a fun show we've created here, Michael.
Pretty cool stuff. All right, we love you guys. We're gonna see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
Yo.
Yo.
Oh man.
Oh, dude. Exhausted.
Yeah.
All right. So you already got day 1 out. You're gonna plan on getting day. I'll have my day.
I'm gonna
2
try and get.
finalized
I'm gonna
for
try and
tomorrow.
get day 3 out tonight.
Are you gonna get out tonight?
If I can.
Okay.
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
If I can get everybody's emails and pictures, I'll send it out. If not, first thing tomorrow.
All right. I'm gonna try to hold off till tomorrow. See if I can hear back from Hal Puthoff.
Okay.
If I don't hear back from him before the show, I'm just gonna finalize and we'll get it out.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, we got the room for him if he does show up.
We'll make the fucking room.
Yeah, we'll make the room.
Oh my God, we're still live.
No, we're not, are we?
Yes, we are.
Oh, you didn't end the show? Well, there you go, folks. You just got an inside view. 51 of us here. 51 people sitting here watching us over a private conversation.
Wow.
Michael, this is your show. You got to take control. I stepped out to go to the bathroom. I thought for sure you were going to end the stream. Now, see, this is why I wear a hat, because of this. We usually take off our ties as soon as the stream's over. Yep, we're still live, G West. That's right. We sure are. We sure are. Yep.
Man. All right.
So-
well, yeah. So you saw some.
Now you know how
behind-the-scenes.
exhausted we are.
Love you guys. Bye.
Yep, peace.